Hello, Rob Watson here for Decentered Media, and I thought I'd just give you a quick catch-up. I've explained in other videos and other conversations I've had with people that I'm not really feeling up to speed at the moment. I think I've had flu or COVID or something, and it's kind of for the last 2 weeks I've been out of action. I've done bits and pieces of I'm due for another nap this afternoon, which I might do when I get back home. But I just wanted to talk about a couple of things that I'm involved with at the moment and that have been quite useful to be part of. One, obviously, is the development of Radio Lear and the support that gets given by the Patreon supporters for Decentered Media that have enabled me to get Radio Lear on the air and to expand it and to start to build up some I suppose an audience, which is not necessarily the primary function at the moment. The content that's going out has been AI generated by me, and what I'm looking to do next is to expand on that content and to start bringing some artists in and try and get some funding so that I can do some commissions. The Radio Lear is called Leicester Emergent Arts Radio, and I bill it as the world's first meta-modern radio station, and I'm looking at exploring how we can use AI not just as a kind of a functional platform, but also as a creative mechanism for developing content. It's early days, just getting established, but we're on in Leicester and Loughborough, and it's kind of interesting to put something out there which I have no interest. This is going to sound really bizarre to most people. I have no interest in feedback. I have no interest in comments or opinions about what the station does and how it operates, which sounds bizarre, but you've got to free yourself from that, I think. We're going through a period at the moment where, kind of in a way, the UK is quite it's quite a frustrating place because it can feel very creatively sterile, and that people get blocked from doing interesting things, and that there's a kind of a frustration that everything should be done in the way that it's always already been done. And we're coming to the end of a period, a cycle, if you like, where we have to look at ourselves and we have to say, what is it we're doing? What is it we're trying to get out of this? What is it we're trying to express? And what's the function of creativity in this process? So I'm hoping to use Radio Lear as something where I can re-establish something that is personal to me and maybe other people who come along and support it, but which takes a different track and doesn't necessarily follow the party lines or the agreed and accepted social priorities of funding organisations or approval committees or local authorities or do-gooders in the art or media world. It's something that I want to do, which is not necessarily confrontational, but just has its own process and has its own sense of purpose. And so what I'm looking to try and do is encourage people to support the station by becoming Patreon subscribers so that we can do things independently. I think one of the challenges in the UK is that there's too much standing in line for government funding, and don't get me wrong, I will be stood in line for government funding where I can get it, and it's highly appreciated. But what we've got to do is start creating independent networks of arts and culture funding, which enables us to operate and work independently. Hello, sorry, I got interrupted. So I was talking about Radio Lear and the role and purpose of Radio Lear. The other thing that I've been involved in is Source Sound, and I got interrupted with having a conversation with Sam, and kind of I don't know where this burst of energy, this burst of kind of positivity flooded me for a moment in terms of thinking about what the purpose is and the commitment that we need to develop community radio stations that are working at a higher professional level and that we're achieving. This is a bit confused thinking in my part, unfortunately, so let me just try and explain. I had a conversation with a senior civil servant at DCMS a few months ago, and one of the things they said was they're surprised that community radio stations aren't really operating at like a community social enterprise or a charity with about £200,000 a year income. They kind of expected that that would be the norm. And the fact that they're operating around, £15,000 to £20,000 a year income, which is barely covering costs and it has never really grown, is the problem. So it's like, well, who's responsible for that? Well, we could have a blame game, or we can point fingers, and I've got plenty of fingers I can point, but I think the question is about what our ambition is and what our sense of purpose is with community radio. So looking at Source Sound, how can we grow Source Sound to have 40, 50, 60,000 listeners per week, that we can verify, that we can demonstrate that we do actually reach across the board to the population of Leicester, and that we are therefore able to achieve our objectives of providing high quality information, entertainment, updates, education, whatever you want to call it, those Reithian ideals, on the basis that it's a station that's driven by people from the communities based in Leicester to those communities in Leicester. And that's not an extractive model of broadcasting, but it's a generative model. It's a locally generative model, and the profit, the social profit, if you like, that comes back from the station goes back into the station. So it regenerates and meets the needs of the people in the area, and this can be applied as a model to anybody else. So I think we kind of, maybe it's a bounce back from my malaise over the last 2 weeks, but it just kind of strikes me, and it's like this has come through in the moment of thinking about what I'm going to talk about on this, is that we're playing around in the shallow end, and we're putting up with people who we're putting up with attitudes of people who are stuck in the past, who are stuck in 20, 30 years ago of thinking. And this is from government regulation through to people who run radios, to community radio stations, to volunteers, and it's all very safe and it's all very predictable, and we need to break out of this, and we need to develop a mindset which says, no, we can achieve more, and we can have higher ambitions, and we can generate more social impact. And the interesting part of this is to think about and look at how we tie in the regenerative approach, the foundational economics model approach, which sees community media, whether it's a community newspaper, community news platform, a community radio station, a community TV, video channel, whatever it is. I'm very agnostic about what they are. But what it does is it sees it as having a primary public purpose, which is up there with libraries, schools, buses, theatres, all of the social and civic infrastructure that we kind of, we kind of have made very difficult to run and operate in the UK because of lack of investment and a lack of purpose, and that they do actually, to have strong cultural, community-based programming, arts, discussion, all those kind of things, that's really essential for a cohesive society. And I just kind of really think that we need to raise our game, and we need to think more purposefully about this, and we limit ourselves. And there are people out there doing fantastic work, and they have a strong sense of ambition about what they want to achieve, but we're not bringing this together, and we're not trying to produce something which is more than the sum of its parts. So, we have to look at this, and we have to say, okay, we have to get an argument together, and we have to get an approach together, and we have to model this, and we have to figure out what the economics of this are, which says, okay, how is this going to be fit? What are the challenges that it deals with, and how is this going to be fit for the future? For example, misinformation, globalized misinformation. There's all the things that come out of India and China and Russia that play out in Glasgow and Manchester and Bristol, and places where the model of public debate is skewed and destabilised by misinformation. So it's a national security issue for us to have strong, local, accountable media. The strength of the BBC, in order to be that rock solid, kind of pillar within the media ecosystem that provides unbiased, accurate, truthful, accountable news and information, that forms the cornerstone of our democracy. And then also the freedom and flexibility to air and share legitimate views across a whole broad range of spectrum without people being, dismissed as being, on one hand, right-wing nut jobs, or on the other hand, left-wing nut jobs. And it's like there's a sensible civic engagement process that needs to be invested in with this. So I always say, kind of community radio stations are such an underutilized resource, so potential social resource. And I suppose a challenge for myself as well is to get out and go visit some more active community radio stations and talk with people and fill in some of these blanks and figure out what people are doing and to look at this. So, if you want to take part in like a discussion and a podcast about how we can do this in the future, what your experiences are, I'd love to hear from you. It's like the challenge I've had in the UK is getting people to talk, getting people to have a conversation where you can explore ideas. It's there's a hesitancy there. There's somehow people are kind of holding back from having a frank and open and honest sharing of experiences and discussing things and saying this is what we need to consider. So this is what this channel is about, and it would be great to hear from you if you want to take part. Right, I don't know what happened with that burst of energy then. It must have been something good, but I think I'm going to go back home and finish off some of my admin, and I'll catch up with you again soon.